Hey, what's going on, everybody? From 5 9 Gaming, my name is Toon, and you're watching Getting to Know. It's the show with questions and even more questions. And today we're getting to know Galeriot. He is lovingly known around these parts as the Gacha Connoisseur, who also streams on Twitch and heads the anime division on 5 9. Gale, welcome to the show.
Yo. How you doing, Toon? I'm looking forward to being on here.
I'm doing pretty sweet. Aap kaise ho?
मैं ठीक हूँ, आप कैसे हो? That
Oh,
was
wow.
a surprise. Hey. You know, I knew you would do something with the Hindi, but I was like, I'm gonna prepare myself, alright?
Oh, you want to hear some Hindi? I got some Hindi for you. क्या आप इंटरव्यू के लिए तैयार हैं?
I think it should be मैं तैयार हूँ. Again, it's a bit spotty, but...
Thank you, Google. All right, let's begin. So, as stated at the start of this video, you are known as the guy of many gachas. How many total gachas are you currently playing right now?
I think actively right now, let me try and rattle off some. Alright, so
Go
Fate
for it.
Grand Order. Let's start off with Fate Grand Order. I think that's the one that I play, I'd say second most. Genshin is of course the one that I play the most. Then Dokkan. My Hero Ultra Impact, of course, the game just came out, so of course gotta try that. Then I think I obviously play Princess Connect. I know I play Princess Connect on Machi Memoria Freeze. In terms of just generally, you know, like casually, I think I open up here and there is Grand Blue Fantasy. Dragalia is obviously one of the games. I also open up some rhythm gacha games, of course, like D4DJ, Bang Dream, and stuff like that. But I would say if we add up all of those, I'd say around 8 to 9, give or take.
Oh my god. You know that the day is just 24 hours, right?
Yeah, I mean, the day is 24 hours, but I give like 10 minutes to each gacha. And I mean, like I said, some of them are just like log in whenever I remember to log in, like stuff like that. But if I say the active, like 15 minutes at least minimum to the game, right? I'd say probably 5.
Okay, so that was going to be my question, because I struggle with 3 gachas, but I play them 100% all out. So I'm doing all the daily events. You know, I'm keeping up with with all the content drops. And so playing 3 gachas, Duel Links, Dokkan, and Grand Cross, and then with the occasional Legends in there, it's very difficult for me to juggle all of that. So I wanted to ask you your secret to juggling all of these games while not sacrificing your sanity and still managing to gain a substantial experience from each title.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, I don't think, especially if you're trying to be on the more competitive side, right? Especially if you're playing PvP gachas, right? PvP gachas just require you to invest more time into them because your main goal in the end game for those style of games is to be best of the rest or better than the rest, depending on your financial condition and how you're planning on spending that financial condition on the game, right? But if you look at me, for example, I dedicate my time to gachas that are more in depth with the story side of things, right? Princess Connect, of course, relates to the anime and of course is a Sai Games original, so there's story there. Fate Grand Order, obviously, I'd say arguably by far the best gacha for story at this moment in time, in my personal opinion. Then you look at games like Genshin, who's done a fantastic job with their open world style. They haven't got PvP in the game. Hopefully won't have PvP in the game, but they've also got a huge potential with story in the future, right? So a lot of my games are more related to the story. So more often than not, during its downtime when there's maybe not an event up or a story up, which happens more often than not, right? I dedicate about 15-20 minutes a day to them, maybe even 10 minutes. Like FGO, for example, doesn't require you. There's no dailies in FGO. There's weekly missions, yes, but in terms of dailies, there's nothing. You log in, you can log back out, or if you have something to do, then you do that and then log back out, right? Dokkan's probably the only one where there's no story, no nothing, and it's just more so for the collection purposes. I'd say in terms of my roster, I think that's the only gacha where I'm like, I wish there was better events in Dokkan because I think Dokkan could do a fantastic job with what if stories and stuff like that. I feel Dokkan should go more in the line of like how Heroes is. And then it would be like such a much better gacha because they could rely on the what if stories, and that would be the unique selling point for Dokkan again, because right now Dokkan doesn't necessarily have much of a selling point outside of its Dragon Ball IP when you compare it to the new onslaught of gachas like Uma Musume, Genshin, and stuff like that.
Would you say it's important for a gacha gamer to not have a completionist mentality?
It depends on your financial condition, in my personal opinion. I think at the end of the day, if you are a completionist, you want to collect everything in a gacha and whatnot. Some gachas are more than fine for that, in my personal opinion. Like, for example, I think Danmachi is a gacha I play where getting a completionist mentality, if you're trying to just aim for like one copy of each unit, you just want to get your set complete. I think that's a perfect gacha because all you need to do in that game is there's like two sets of banners. There's the normal banner where you spend free iris on, or the free currency on, and you're guaranteed a new unit on steps 1, 4, 7, 10. Simple, straightforward, very easy to do. But they also do allow you to effectively spend money and guarantee yourself the unit by just paying paid iris, which is 400 paid iris, the same amount as a free iris. So that is actually very easy to get that completionist there. But if you're looking at some game like, for example, SDS or Fate Grand Order or something along those lines where the rates are very, very dead low, or the main aspect of the game is to obviously have a high level of dupes in them, it can get very daunting, especially because some things are locked behind either PvP in of course, for example, with SDS isn't. I'm pretty sure in SDS there's like in geared PvP, if you hit top 100 you're given a special unit, right? Or something along those lines.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's another example. Like, your completionist mentality will want you to get top 100, and I know the pain of going into PvP if you're a free-to-play player especially, and if you have that completionist mentality, you're not going to get there, unfortunately. It's going to be extremely daunting. It's going to be super hard. People are going to have 6 units while you may only have like 2 out of 6 or 3 out of 6 if you're lucky, right? Also, another problem is, gachas love power creeping, especially in a PvP gacha game and whatnot, right? Some gacha games can be very easy on the power creep, but some gachas can be extremely harsh on their players.
Which game do you think, out of all the games that you play or have come across, is the most free-to-play friendly in terms of not putting as much of a stress on your mind to potentially buy a pack or try to catch them all or complete it all, for lack of a better phrase?
Okay, I'd arguably say if you're interested in just story and you don't think, if you want to play a gacha game where you don't want to summon and you want to play the game completely free, FGO. Like, all characters in that 1 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, and 5 stars, all usable. Like, some obviously aren't usable in the sense of, like, they may not be the best, but you can still use them when you need to. Like, there's this unit called Arash, who's a 1 star in FGO. He's, like, so good. He's so good for just to clear enemies and stuff like that. Very, very useful. I think FGO is really great, but the only issue with FGO is, in my personal opinion, is that they have a great selling point during anniversary and New Year's, where you're guaranteed a SSR, but you have to spend money for it. You're guaranteed a 5 star basically, or an SSR, the highest rarity, right? So that's something that could force people to summon. Another gacha game I will say that has just recently released, again, Genshin. I think that's a completely free-to-play game, in my personal opinion. If I wasn't so interested in supporting the company and supporting the game, because I know what they're trying to achieve and I'm appreciative of them taking the big steps they have, making it a PC game, PS4, this massive open world RPG, I wouldn't spend the money on the game and I'd still be fine, because your pity carries over in that game, so you're never not gonna get a 5 star. If you don't get a 5 star, I would be dead surprised at any point in the game, right? And the 4 stars are immensely usable as well. So I'd say right now, if I were to choose any of the gachas I'm playing, it would be between FGO and Genshin.
As gamers, we like to distinguish between gacha games and other games. There's always that barrier, that divide, right? Like, what kind of games do you play? Video games. What kind of video games? Gacha games. Oh, so not the mainstream, Like, there's always that, I wouldn't say stigma, but there's always that distinction. But it seems like more and more the mainstream games are somewhat adopting that gacha mentality with these roulette-based microtransactions and games with service model.
I 100% agree. I mean, FIFA is a perfect example of that, right? It even happened before gacha games burst onto the West, right? Because gachas mainly burst into the West in 2015 with Dokkan, of course. And then 2017, FGO came over to the West, as well as, many other gachas, Dragon Ball Legends, SDS Grand Cross, Epic 7, so on and so forth. You can name all these gachas that started coming to the West after 2016, 2017 primarily, right? But you can track back to this whole microtransaction thing to FIFA's Ultimate Team or EA's Ultimate Team model that they've adopted for all their sports games, Madden, NFL, or the NHL games, sorry, FIFA and whatnot. And this can be tracked back to 2013. So I wouldn't say that gachas are the sole reason why microtransactions have been such a big thing, but you can see the influence it definitely has had on bigger companies to be like, okay, gacha game, these are mobile games that are doing extremely well. EVGO racked over 4 billion in like 5 years, or 4 years, sorry, even. And you look at FIFA, who's raking in billions per year just by releasing a new game every year, and people spending more on that Ultimate Team side, right? So I think it's a combination of them just looking at both sides of the coin and then being like, all right, we can apply this to every single game we do. You look at Overwatch has loot boxes. You look at Valhalla, Assassin's Creed, a game, I never thought Assassin's Creed would ever, in my lifetime have microtransactions. That has microtransactions. And then you look at other games that have skins and, whatnot. And to be honest, in my personal opinion, you can make an argument that DLC is also a form of microtransaction because you're locking content behind money. Anyways, it's not part of the full game, right?
That actually leads me into the next question I wanted to ask you. Do you think that this archetype is the future of gaming, games with service, always having some sort of DLC content after the base game? Or is there still a place in this world for the classic gaming experience where you pay for what you get, you play through it, and then you're done?
No, not anymore. I think the era of DLCs have run over. I mean, you look at games like Cyberpunk 2077 that come unfinished. What you paid for, you didn't even get the main game, right? It was horrible at launch and everything. The whole problem is with this digital era, in my opinion, is the factor of gaming companies are now allowed to patch the game after launch, right? Whereas what you got as a disc was what you got. They couldn't patch the game, right? There was no way to upgrade or patch the game thereon, right? So this era of being able to digitally, update the games and stuff like that, while it's amazing because, you're not dealing with any bugs or glitches as you progressively play the game, months after, but it also means they can easily, release unfinished games, kind of try and do some PR to the best of their capabilities. Obviously, Cyberpunk didn't necessarily go to plan, of course, because it was that bad. But, look at some other games that, may have had a very iffy launch, but successfully managed to, recuperate from that and still, sell quite a decent amount of copies nonetheless, right? So I think it's the future, unfortunately. I think, DLCs definitely are the future as well. There's no doubt about it. In terms of the games with service, however, I'm a bit iffy on that because you look at games like Avengers, that didn't necessarily go to plan, right? But it also comes down to how they build the games with service, because some might successfully build a really solid game that as a service game succeeds, but if they do it like Avengers where the grinding is horrible, the microtransactions is horrible, the rewards you get for building those characters up is not rewarding, it can be a problem.
So you are not only an avid gamer, but you are also quite the engineer, right?
Well, I mean, it depends on how much you want to classify me as an engineer, unless I want to break your stuff. Unless you want me to break your stuff, I should say more so.
Given the state of the world over the past year, how challenging has it been as an aerospace engineering student to have not only learn remotely all this theoretical stuff, but then have to apply all the practical stuff all on your own?
I think, of course, this year they kind of mentioned that obviously our batch was lucky enough that this year wasn't going to be practical heavy, it was more theoretical heavy. But you do miss a lot of the practical side, I should say specifically, right? I think especially with students who were doing their year-long project, like I had a year-long project that was more so based on, using my computer to design a model, whereas, other people had to rely on going to the workshop and stuff, and for that you have to get, obviously you have to follow the protocols, wearing a mask, making sure you had a COVID test and getting a negative, booking the room as well, and so on and so forth. So for them especially, it must have been extremely daunting. For me, thankfully, I kind of avoided the practical side because a lot of it was just working from home and using my computer, thankfully. But at the same time, for certain subjects that did have the practical aspect, the labs and stuff, I think it was aircraft structural designs, we just unfortunately couldn't do the labs for them because we had to work from home effectively. So definitely missed out on those, and you could tell that we missed out on those because while the theoretical side was daunting and hard, I think with the practical side we would have had a better understanding of what we were actually learning.
I'm always told the best way to learn is to teach someone else. So I'm going to help you out here, Gail. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of learn or apply some of the stuff that you've been learning through your theoretical studies and your practical, all right? Can you teach me the 3 most important concepts needed to create the wing of a Formula 1 car?
Alright, so effectively you need to learn 2 things first and foremost. The first 2 things, very important things, are drag and lift, right? Simple stuff. This is what you learn in effectively high school, middle school physics, right? Lift is, of course, the force that pushes you upwards. However, in a front wing, you want it to be the other way around, so I'll come on to that in a second. And then, of course, drag is to obviously push against the air, which is obviously resisting you as you're trying to go through the circuit, effectively, and you're trying to push forward, right? Super basic stuff, applies everywhere. But the thing with the Formula 1 car is that you don't want it to go up, because you don't want it to fly. Otherwise, you're probably going to have a very, very bad crash. You want it to be pushing you down so that you stick to the circuit, and especially at high speeds, you don't lift off. So what you want to do is you're basically trying to take Bernoulli's principle, kind of flip it on its head, and try and make sure you have a higher pressure on the top and a lower pressure at the bottom, so that the pressure, you're sticking the car to the ground effectively. Now, obviously, the third concept, or, well, I should say the third material you need, of course, is, of course, a handle over CFD, or computational fluid dynamics. Very straightforward. Computational fluid dynamics is basically allowing you to understand fluid dynamics and how flow works effectively. And as the name suggests, it's all done via computer. So thankfully, we don't have to follow, we don't have to remember the equations and stuff. The computer does it for us.
Okay. So you said there's lift.
Yes.
Can we start again?
Oh my god.
So as the leader of the anime division on 5-9, you've surely seen quite a bit of anime over the years.
Yes, I have.
If I were to throw out a name of someone on the 5-9 team, would you be able to quickly tell me someone in the anime world that most relates to that person?
I'll try my very best. It's
right.
gonna be hard going through the roster, but I'll try my very best.
All right, we're not going to go through all of them because there's quite a few of us, but we will go over some of the ones you might know more and interact with more.
Okay.
Waffles.
Iruka Sensei Naruto.
Troko.
Itsuki Initial D.
Ignan.
Skip. I can't think of anything.
Okay. Truth.
It is hard, man. Truth. Jiraiya Naruto.
Tystra.
Kakashi Naruto.
I'm sensing a pattern here. Goresh.
Goresh. Very hard.
Skip.
Skip.
All right. Nolar.
Daisuke Kanbei from Unlimited Balance Unlimited, or Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh!
Kaiba. Wow. Okay.
Just because of how much money he has. Nazarachi. Shikamaru's lazy side from Naruto.
I don't even know what that is, but that sounds funny. Bradical.
The homie Bradical. Kiba from Naruto as well.
Talon.
Talon. I don't know, actually. Skip. I think skip for me.
Sunblade.
Sunblade. German. I'm trying to think. Okay, I think...
German.
German. Yes, German.
Can we just leave it at that? German. That's
German, yes. Sure, let's go leave it at German.
Sunblade. German. Hydros.
Yes. Hydros. Okay, this one is easy. I'd say probably Present Mike from MHA. I don't know why. It just reminds me of him.
I can kind of see that. Toon Rami. Whoever that guy is.
Toon Rami. Okay. Your appearance, robot appearance, Alfonso Elric from Full Metal, just because of the robot. Just because of the robot.
Okay.
But as a person, I would say Joey from Yu-Gi-Oh!
What?
I mean, hey, you're funny. I'll take you as the comical side guy.
Who loses at everything. Okay. Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense. At least it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Something I know.
I wanted to try and make it what people would know, so that, like, I can, if they hear it, they know as well.
Yeah. How about Gale Riot?
That's a hard one, because I'd probably be the smart guy, so I'd say somebody along the lines of...
Izzy from Digimon.
Izzy from Digimon would work actually. You know what? That probably would work. Prodigious. Yeah, I think also I would say probably for me, I just because of my love for cars, I could see myself as Takumi as well, from Initial D, just because of my love of cars. But that's beyond that. That's just the reason why.
Folks, make sure to check out Gale's Gacha adventures on his Twitch streams, and also be sure to catch all things anime on the 5-9 Gaming channel. Gale Riot, thank you for being here, my friend.
Hey, appreciate it, man. I'm so happy to have done this with you, mate.
हम अब वीडियो समाप्त कर सकते हैं?
हाँ, चलो हम अब वीडियो समाप्त कर सकते हैं. Definitely.
Sweet. What did I just say?
But the thing with the Formula 1 car is that you don't want it to go up because you don't want it to fly. Otherwise, you're probably going to have a very, very bad crash. You want it to be pushing you down so that you stick to the circuit, and especially at high speeds, you don't lift off. So what you want to do is you're basically trying to take Bernoulli's principle, kind of flip it on its head, and try and make sure you have a higher pressure on the top.